that they're changing my voice. First of all, I'm not racist, and I'm part white. I'm part black, and I'm part white, and I look at things in terms of justice, in terms of character. I look at things in terms of characteristics. I'm not very concerned with race. It helps me understand who people are when I look at the sum total of a person or a group. Other than that, I don't care for racial arguments very much. I don't care for national arguments very much. My kingdom is not of this world. Now, I was watching a news clip and I came across this comment that Donald Trump had said about Illhan Omar. And it should be on the screen, and it is unbelievably evil and disgusting. I go as far as say that Donald Trump has done a lot of things that are very questionable, at least, but this one crossed the line. When you're a president, you can't behave that way. You simply can't. You can't say those things because you work for the people in a society that's not supposed to be racist, and it's a multicultural society. So let's kind of break it down here. So Somalia is basically the homeland for Somalians. It's a bit more confusing than that because where do people all come from? Initially, nobody really knows, but as far as we know, it's from Africa, and everything seems to line up that way, what have you. But my point is there's a difference between what Somalia is for Somalians and what America is for white people. In a sense, and bear with me, you'll see that I'm right. In a sense, America is not the homeland for anybody because it's been kind of contaminated and changed by colonialism. America will never be the same. All these technologies that contaminate the land, all this breeding, a lot of people being purged out, the native and indigenous people of this land, there was a lot of different tribes here. They've mixed with the white people to a large degree and other races, right? So you don't have the same kind of ethnic dynamic that you have in Somalia. So it's kind of like a cheap shot. On behalf of the European elites and Lord knows who else, Donald Trump is using these kind of arguments to get at black people, Hispanic people, what have you. And I can't really remember any incidents off the top of my head, but probably almost certainly Asian people and whoever else. His comment was clearly racist. And if he takes it off, the message got out there. When you're the president specifically, you're supposed to behave in a way that's very professional, very professional. There are kids watching you, what have you. Now with me, it's a bit different because I'm targeted and I'm fumed and poisoned and provoked daily. And the president and the rest of the government refuses to bring me justice. In the last 16 years, I've only had 11 months of relationships, and I'm the type of person that would be married by like 20 years old. And I'm 44 years old now. Donald Trump is significantly older than I am. He's significantly he's a much less angry person than I am. What he's learned from life is if you are a racist and you go after blood money, a lot of bad people cheer you on, you get lots of money or what have you, at least when you do it his way. And that's wrong. The message he sends to the kids is very wrong. It's sad to have to criticize the president, who I was hoping might turn over a new leaf. Maybe I could collaborate with him to make this country a better place in a way that's fair and just and right. I was really hoping for that possibility. I knew it was a long shot, but I was hoping for it nonetheless. It's very disheartening to see the way people have been treating this female, Illhan Omar, who said nothing wrong. And it's very sad that the president behaves the way he's behaving. I am the Son of God. I can criticize people as I see fit because it comes from God. But the President of the United States, as he boasts in mere flesh, he boasts in the self-direction of humanity by the white man, which has turned out to be quite the failure. He boasts as if he's representing God, Well, we can read between the lines easily and see that he's representing the white, Jewish, and LGBT elite. We can see by who's around him, who his family is married, who they are, how they behave, how they conduct themselves. And as I hold the sword of God Almighty, as I hold the scepter, the staff, the rod of God Almighty, the sword of God's wrath, the rod of God setting me apart as the King of Kings. Keep in mind, I have treated white people very fairly. As I hold this scepter and staff, anytime I've chastised them, they deserved it. Many of them are leading the charge to persecute me. Same thing with Jews and LGBT people who I commonly chastise. If they have a good heart, when they're rebuked, they'll change and obey God through me. If not, that which refuses to obey God deserves to be destroyed and insulted. I separate the sheep from the goats. You can't compare my behavior to his. Mine is divinely appropriate and fair and just and right, with everything considered. He's abusing his power. It's very sad. What he's doing is like kicking Somalians while they're down, and all Africans in every nation that struggles. He says she comes from a place that has nothing, and so she can't tell Americans how to govern. When Christ as a character in the story came from Bethlehem, a Nazarene, as they say, could he not tell Herod how to govern? Could he not tell Caesar how to govern? But that was his example. And on top of that, just like the Romans were sabotaging the Jews in the story, in history, America is one of these developed nations that sabotages Africa with their corporations. And a lot of people think blood diamonds, but it goes so much deeper than that. There's oil activities that go on. There's proxy wars. There's the Cold War historically, and the Cold War never ended, so there's still a proxy war going on in Africa right now. Who doesn't know these things? I've known these things since I was a kid. You see it in the history books in 3rd or 4th grade and beyond. You see it in movies and cartoons and comics. It's everywhere you look. Definitive proof. Definitive proof. So when I see this comment, it's very sad. This arrogant, racist white guy throwing his weight around, this massive MAGA movement, this red government, picking on this fragile black woman. Now, I don't care what color someone's skin is. I care about what they're doing, what their group's doing, what they're up to. How they use whatever power they've been allotted, right? You know, the parable of the 10 minas and the bags of gold. The parable of the tenants. The parable of the wedding banquet. The parable of the hidden treasure and the lost pearl. What do you prioritize? You boast like the king of Assyria in Isaiah, like Pharaoh in Ezekiel. You boast like the king of Tyre. You say, look at all these things that America has. You see people looking at her quite often, right? They want people to respect the white power structure. They don't want people to respect God, but they want people to respect the white power structure. And rich Jews and LGBT, they say, look at our social status. They say we're above everybody. They say nothing, no harm will ever come to us. How could you say that? How can you say that when even the scientific facts, which are an unnecessary overkill, show that you're wrong? When they did the happiness studies, these poorer nations were happier than you people who have more unjust gain. How can you treat me this way? How can you treat her this way? How can you treat the poor this way? How can you ignore the lessons from Matthew 25 and Isaiah 58 that I bring up so often in my videos? Why are people being so stupid? At times like this, I often think that wouldn't it be nice if I had a beautiful wife that I could hold? If I lived on a planet where it was moral and logical to have a family, and a little kid run up and hold my leg? A child that I brought into this world through a beautiful woman? But these people with that same arrogance, with that same spirit, with that same way of thinking, they've denied me this. We see drug addicts with girlfriends. We see corporate psychopaths with girlfriends and wives. We see all kinds of arrogant filth. MAGA demons. And yes, they're demons. Better is open rebuke than love that is concealed. You who are part of the MAGA movement, would you rather I lie to you? Should the Son of God come to earth and lie to you about these things and keep you on the broad path to destruction? To the leftists and the rest of the conservatives, you're all doing the wrong thing. Even Illhan Omar is doing the wrong thing to some degree, but she talks more sense than most politicians. How many of you think that it is fair for developed Western nations with all their white supremacists to bully underdeveloped nations, to pick on them, to depopulate them, to do eugenics on them, to cause many people in their countries to starve to death and die of hunger-related issues, and go on and on about how they can't even govern? You are the ones governing them. You may as well be talking about how the communities in Compton and Watts and Chicago cannot govern themselves very well. Does the mayor of Los Angeles have the power to solve the problems in Los Angeles, or does the president and the Congress and the Supreme Court? The global system is very similar to that. I've done a lot of research into this. I've made videos for 16 years and almost 1 month. They have everything to do with this. I've posted on many different platforms, thousands of videos, over 15,000 videos. And not once has there been a logical and cogent and coherent and respectable counter-argument for my irrefutable argument that it is developed nations that have caused most of the problems in underdeveloped nations. And it is heartbreaking to see people's souls rot, to see people's flesh rot, to see them die of starvation, see them die of preventable diseases and problems, communicable and non-communicable medical issues. But you think that the answer is to hoard money, to play stupid frat-like games, to abuse people here and abroad. And when someone points out that people like Charlie Kirk, who perpetuate a culture of racism in a way that a child can understand immediately, that you think it's smart or something to pretend that somebody who's in the public sphere, who was on the verge of being seen as some kind of patriot by millions of Americans, you think it's fair to stop people from correcting that? Should Adolf Hitler be seen as a patriot? Should Joseph Stalin? So why on earth should Charlie Kirk be seen as a patriot? He knew damn well that the arguments that he was making were designed to keep people of color down, especially black people. They were designed to incite LGBT people to violence and anger, to try to create this sort of siege effect, or to allow for a siege argument in regards to white people being under siege. He would say things like 13% of America is black and 55% of the homicides are done by black people. And I've explained why that is many times, and so have many other people, and then there's a lot of people who explain it in a very weak way, and you put them front and center, trying to play a left-right game, trying to balance the two satanic parties. While people suffer, people are being deported right now, kids are being trafficked, people are being raped, people are overdosing from drugs, you don't care. What happens when you target a community like the Jews were targeted in Poland in the Warsaw Ghetto during World War II? That time period. People turn to crime at higher rates. That's what happens. That's where we got the word ghetto from the Warsaw Ghetto. And in popular culture, Jews in America, they don't commit many crimes that they get arrested for. And so you use them as an example of good behavior, unless you're, a Nazi when you're in the white community. Quite often that's what we see, right? But where we got the word ghetto was from the conditions they were living in when they were stealing from each other at higher rates. They were prone to violence at higher rates. There was people who would try to debunk this argument, but it's nonsense. Next, they're going to try to debunk the argument that in the concentration camps, Jews were stabbing each other in the fucking back. You're going to try to debunk that too? Perhaps none of them informed on each other. No, we all know firsthand that when you make people poor, they're more likely to steal. They're more likely to be angry. And if you target their race more than other races with insults and provocation, when you're jealous of them more than other races, because of Kobe Bryant type, Sugar Ray, Michael Jordan, Martin Luther King, when you cheat them the most, no offense to anybody. This is honestly what I believe. If you don't agree, put in the comments. And yes, in some cases, immigrants of other races have it harder than black people. Sometimes who are immigrants themselves, sometimes they're citizens here, but this has to be said. It's like I'm walking on eggshells, but I'm not afraid. I just don't want to offend anyone unfairly. I'm telling the truth here. When you provoke a lion, you get a different response than if you provoke a bobcat. When you think of the Klan, you think of them hating black people more. When you think of neo-Nazis, what movies come to mind? Higher Learning, American History X, they were fighting with black people. When you think of racist mockery in American history, what's the bell that rings the loudest? Aimed at black people. You've provoked them and insulted them more. You brought the drugs into those neighborhoods and you used psychological operations that were designed to get them to act up more. So when they act up more, should you be surprised? No. And Charlie Cook understood these things very well. It takes a white supremacist to play stupid about that and then turn around and cite the symptoms of the problem and to ignore the underlying cause, which vindicates the black community. Did you hear him talking about whether or not Martin Luther King goes beyond every white celebrity in American history? You don't hear him saying that, do you? Do you hear him talking about how Jesus is back and he's part black? You don't hear him saying that either. You didn't hear him saying that, and you don't hear him now. If he was alive right now, he probably wouldn't be saying that. He was making arguments like when the black man follows the white oppressor, and if the shoe fits, wear it, that he's magically well behaved. Just like the eugenicists of old who said that if the black man ever becomes a competitor, his fate is sealed. And as we see black people being more competitive than ever in various ways, we see this all-red government and a dark cloud over many people's heads as they behave like racist, loathsome, and vile creatures of darkness. I expect more from all of you, and time is running out. Do you think that when Donald Trump made that comment that he looks very respectable and mature and ideal? Or do you think that women of worth think that he's an idiot for making that comment? And everyone like him, right? Guilty by association. I'm not talking about all white people, but everybody who takes that racist route, regardless of race, but especially if they're white, because we see the main damage that's being done in the world coming from whites, Jews and LGBT people. To the one who much is given, much is expected. Now, what are they doing with their inordinate influence over the world? Look at all the harm they're causing, and they're blaming the victim. If you're white or Jewish, you should run, not walk, to be the exception to the rule. It is a tragedy when everybody from any race is doing the wrong thing. Now, there's definitely a spectrum, but as everyone's cheating me out of my right to lead, everyone from every one race is doing the wrong thing. But jaywalking isn't the same as mass murder. But killing one person isn't the same as being part of a committee that starves 9 million people to death every year and does other horrific things as well. I know they're trying to make it so I sound like a corny preacher or something, but if you don't understand that I'm right, you are severely ill. When a brain surgeon's son, who's the top martial artist and the son of God, goes on and on for 16 years plus and reinforces maybe 100 very key points with an emphasis on 10, and they have no viable counter-argument. Why do you think that is? You think that they think that they're above debating the top martial artist ever possible? You think that they're above debating a college-educated brain surgeon's son, the son of 2 doctors? My father's a top doctor, not just a brain surgeon, a humanitarian and top doctor, and I'm his namesake. You think that they think that they're above me? Should a flea think it's above the sun? Because you're fleeing from your responsibility. And the sun is the symbol of the bridegroom. Me, Christ. In Revelation 19, I urge you all to do what's right and to not be some kind of a racist worm, to judge people by the content of the character and to weigh groups fairly, like the prophets in the Bible are said to do if you interpret it correctly. When they're judging these groups, they say prophecy against Cush, prophecy against Egypt, Moab, Seir, Edom, Assyria, Babylon, the Philistines, right? Philistia. Judge correctly. Stop judging with mere neo-colonial propaganda scales or control opposition responses and the accompanying scales, and judge correctly. For the love of God, judge correctly.